connecting business owners with the community by giving them a place to share their story. Today, we're going to speak with Kimtrese Slaughter, and she is the founder and owner-operator of Hummingbird Counselling Services for Women. I'm Haley Williams, and I'm your storyteller.
Yes.
Kimtrese, welcome.
Thank you.
am so excited to be interviewing you, for you to be a part of Behind the Door, and for everyone to get to see the heart behind Hummingbird Counselling.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you start and just tell everyone a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, your family. Let's talk a little bit about you.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and I am the oldest of 9 children. Yeah, I'm the oldest of 9. And I, growing up in Brooklyn was difficult because I was born in '77, so like right at the tip or the turning point of the crack epidemic, where it just ravaged, New York, all of the boroughs of New York, and so a lot of us kids we really raised ourselves because our parents were, addicted. Our parents were addicted, and so my story is having 2 addicted parents, but then also spending time in foster care for a while, and then coming back home, and nothing really changes, and just struggling with who I was as a African American woman in this big world. So I left New York when I was 22 because I went to join the United States Navy. And I enjoyed my time. I learned a lot. I suffered a lot. I endured a lot in the military. But at a very young age, right about 8 or 9, is when I realized what I wanted to. I felt that I knew what I wanted to do in my life. I didn't, really understand the whole concept of it, but I knew that I wanted to be a therapist or a helper. And I think part of us finding that purpose is in our experiences. And so I had an experience where I was in foster care, and I was having really bad anxiety attacks, like pulling out my hair, banging my head against the wall, scratching my face, anxiety attacks. And one of my foster mothers, she was told, take me to a therapist. I was like 8 or 9. And so I didn't know what a therapist was. She took me to a therapist, and I kept asking her, like, on the way, like, what is this? Where are we going? What is this? What is this? And she was just like, oh, it's a doctor. She's going to help you with your problems. Now, I didn't know that pulling out my hair, scratching my face, rolling on the floor, I didn't know that was a problem. I thought that was just me and who I was and how I responded to this energy that was taking over my body at the moment. And she went to the bathroom while we were in the waiting room, and I went up to the receptionist, and I was like, well, what kind of doctor is this? And so the receptionist, she was very kind, and she was like, well, this is a doctor that's going to help you with your problems, any type of problems you have. You can just tell her, and she's going to help you. And that just made me feel so like awake, alive, like, wow, somebody's gonna finally listen to me. Every pain, every hurt, every fear, every anxious moment, every anxious story, every feeling of depression and anxiety, like somebody's gonna listen to me now. Like, I was just so excited about that. Like, I felt my mood change in the moment. And so when I went into the office with the psychologist, my experience was the exact opposite of what the receptionist quoted me. It was almost like she looked down on me, and it was what she said in a nutshell was, you live in New York in the middle of a crack epidemic, all of your parents are addicted, you're gonna have some anxiety and depression, get over it. And in that moment, my wall went up. I think that was the beginning of my wall going up, and I wanted to cry. Because I felt like she just threw me off a building. So I wanted to cry, but I held it because I was like, no one is ever going to see me cry again. No one's ever going to hurt me again. And when I walked out, I was probably in there for about 10 minutes. And when I walked out, my foster mother was like, what's going on? And I just literally went mute and did not speak. And we were in the elevator, and my foster mother kept trying to get me to say, what happened? And I said nothing. And I remember being in the elevator and the tears coming, and I'm like, no, you are not going to cry. No, you are going to hold it together. And we got home, and I went in the bathroom, and I just bawled. And I finally got myself together, and I said, you know, I know logically what she was supposed to do, and she didn't do it. She chose not to do it. And I could allow this moment to change my life for the better or for the worse, right? But I was only 9, and it was crazy because I was like, when I grow up, in that moment I said, when I grow up, I'm going to do what she was supposed to do, but I'm going to do it better. And in my heart, I felt like God was like, this is what I want you to do. This is what I want you to do. And then it was like all of these things were coming to my mind. Like even when I was a little girl, I remember being outside with the kids, and they would call me the oracle. They would be like, let's ask the oracle for, like, if they wanted to decide which now later flavor was better. Like, is it the green one or the red one? And I just went with the one that I liked. But I would pretend like, the green. I told you the oracle said it. But they called me the oracle because all I did was read. And so they, as kids, you know, they assumed that there was wisdom in reading, because I would read books like Moby Dick and Black Beauty and Uncle Tom's Cabin, and, you know, as a very, very little girl. Didn't really understand what it was, but I don't know, when I touched the book, there was just so much power in the book. And so after I joined the military, I mean, I met my husband before I actually went to the military. I think I was 18 when I met him, and he was 19. Yeah. And soon after we met, he was traveling around the world with his dad. His dad, Alvin Slaughter, gospel singer, so he was his dad's sound man. And, you know, he was traveling the world, and I was just trying to find, you know, my way. You know, I felt like I was like on a floor, like a bathroom tile floor that had oil on it. That's how I felt, like no balance. Like I was always trying to focus on keeping myself upright, you know. And I thought that the military would bring that to me, because it's like my husband had his thing. When he's my boyfriend at the time, he had his thing. He was 19, traveling all over the world, and I'm like, what am I doing? Me and my mother constantly fighting. You know, I had no identity. I had no clue who I was. You know, I held into this therapist thing, but I didn't even see how that could even be possible with all of the you're nothings and you're not going to do much. You're going to be a baby mom. Just like all the negative things that were being said. So it was very difficult for me to fight that. And I think I realized that it was the environment that was keeping me down and oppressed. And I needed to escape the environment. And so was I like a patriarch and like, yeah, I want to go into the military? No. I wanted to escape. Wow. The military was my escape. And so I went to the military. I served 4 years. Like I said, it was good, bad, ugly, the experience. Then when I got out of the military, it's when I first had my daughter, Lyric, was when I realized, okay, it's real. Now, you know, you jacked up emotionally. You have to deal with your stuff because now you're responsible for another human being. Now, and at this point is my fear was that I would treat my children like my parents treated me, and I think I got angry in that moment too, because I realized in that moment that it was a choice. Before, I didn't even realize it was a choice. I thought that if you experience pain, you automatically hurt other people. That's just how it went. But I realized in that moment, no, I looked at my child and said, I could never say some of the things that were said to me. I could never do some of the things that were done to me, to my child. And that's when I started saying, you know what? I'm going back to school. And the therapist thing is going to happen. You know, and there I started my journey. So now I've been married. This year will be 19 years. My daughter Lyric is 17. I got a 13-year-old daughter, Jazz, and we have 2 dogs, Thor and Ella.
Love it. I love it. And so fast forward all of that incredible journey to today. You are sitting in your own practice. You're a professional licensed therapist. Tell me about how you got here.
Oh gosh, blood, sweat, tears, fear, doubt, trust, all of those things. It was like my anchor, the thing that I held on to. I felt like it was the thing that God promised me. And I feel like when we when we realize what we're supposed to do with our life, one of the things that we have to understand is just because you're called to it doesn't mean it's going to be an easy journey to get there. And I think that's what I thought. It was going to be an easy journey to get here. Because I felt like I've been through so much in my past. So my next part got to be easy, right? The next chapter has to be easy. And boy, was I wrong. But the passion got me over. And it was when I realized, when I started that journey of going to school and things like that, it was the moment that I realized that it will be hard. But when the obstacles come, the passion is going to get you over the obstacles. If you're doing something that you're not passionate about, when the obstacles come, it makes it easy for you to run, you know. And I knew that I couldn't run because I had nowhere else to run. And I knew that I was built for this. Like when they talk about how in Psalms, when it talks about, you know, God, you're God in His secret place creating you. I always go to my head and practice imagery and think about just me and God in that moment. No one else mattered, you know, and everything that I needed, He put in me. Like if you think, like if you buy a TV, everything that TV needs to function comes in the box. The same with us. Everything that we need to function, it comes in the box, you know. And so we don't need to really look to other people, you know, to do what God has called us to do. We have to stop looking at other people and start looking in the box, because we're built for it. We're built for it. And so the road was difficult, getting an undergrad degree while raising a brand new baby, and being a wife and taking care of a home, and working part-time. Then going back and I got a master's in marriage and family therapy, and realized, you know, I did it for a little while, and it was good, but God was calling me to something deeper. He was calling me to something deeper, and by this time I'm more in tune and what He wants for me, because I realized I ain't know nothing, right? So and then I went back and got my master's in professional counseling, and that's when I felt like God was calling me to work specifically with women that were like me, to work with myself, to work with women who had gone through a lot of childhood trauma and abuse and neglect, and are wondering if they're worthy, or wondering if they're enough, and wondering, how do I show up? How do I be myself? How do I accept myself fully? And that's when Hummingbird was born. Yeah.
And what is the significance of the name
Hummingbird? So when I was a little girl, you know, it's a story behind everything. So when I was a little girl, I remembered, I think I was about 11 years old, and I was in Queens in a foster home. And my foster father would lock me in a closet a lot. So I would spend a lot of time by myself. And so he would lock me in a closet, and it would be like this little light under the door, and that would be the only way that I could see light. And that's how I would know, like, it's daytime or it's nighttime. And but when he would let me out, I had this window right by my bed, and I would sit on my bed and look out the window, and it just, you could see the power lines, and the birds were just on the power lines. And I always would pray and be like, God, I just wish I was a bird. If I could just fly away, you know. I just wanted to escape, because nothing held the birds down. Nothing held them down. They can come and go as they please. They can drink water here and decide they don't want to be there, and then they can fly. You know, they could take a little bird bath. They just had this freedom. Birds represent freedom for me, because I felt trapped. I felt like a bird, but I felt like a bird in that I had the ability to be free, but I was trapped inside of a cage. And so I started like really studying birds, and what I found out about the hummingbird, it became my favorite bird. I would go to the library and read about different birds and things like that. And the hummingbird represented for me, it's the smallest bird in the bird species, and it's the only bird that can fly left, right, up, down, forward, back, hover, and upside down.
Wow.
The only bird. And I was just like, oh my gosh. That for me represented perspective. Meaning, like, when you come into Hummingbird, you can think about perspective, right? So you may come and say, this is my story, I'm going through this in particular. But if I told you, move over, fly left, fly right, and every place that you fly, you can see life from a different perspective. You can see your situation from a different perspective. You know, if you just chose to move left, right, up, down, fly, upside down, you know, or whatever. If you just chose to see life from a different perspective. I think sometimes we focus so hard on life and how it is, but we have an opportunity, we have a choice. We have a choice to say, you know what, I want to see this from a different perspective. There has to be something that I can learn from this. There has to be some way I can use this pain, I can use this suffering to make life not only better for me, but for the world. So Hummingbird really represents perspective.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So obviously you've said so much, and it's obvious to me why a woman would choose to come to Hummingbird.
Mm-hmm.
Why would a woman choose to come to Hummingbird?
Women would choose to come to Hummingbird for several reasons. One, because it's a safe place. We all need a safe place to go. We all need a place that we can go and take off our masks and fully be ourselves without judgment, with love, with embracing. Like Hummingbird allows you to be seen just as you are, and we still love you anyway. We still want to help you in it. We still see a 10 over your head anyway. We still see value in you. You know, we all have struggled with something. So, you know, just because we're therapists and because we are licensed and we've gone through all the schooling and things like that, the baseline is that we're human and we can connect on that level. So it's a place where you can come and feel safe. It's a place where you can come and feel seen. Therapy starts at the door. Love starts at the door. You know, you can take your mask off at the door, like you take your coat off, or like you take, you know, your hat off. You can take your mask off at the door and feel that embrace of, I can be me. You know, and sometimes you may feel like you may have to put your mask on when you leave, but you always have a place to come and take it off if you need it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And so, Kimtrese, we're going through a global pandemic right now. How has that changed your practice? How has that impacted you and how you come up and show up every day?
It has impacted. It's very exhausting. It's very exhausting. Just because we want to be safe and we want to make sure that, you know, the people that we work with, the women that we work with are safe. And so, you know, we have transitioned our practice online. We're doing teletherapy. Now, teletherapy is a little bit more draining than that in person because you don't have the energy of people and connection, which is something that we need. You know, that's vital to our existence, connecting with people. So you don't have that component through teletherapy, but it has worked really well. It has allowed women to have access to treatment. It has allowed, it has prevented an interruption in the treatment that they were already receiving. So it's gone well, but it is exhausting, and it's different. It's different, especially for women who have actually come into the office and they want this environment. You know, they want this environment. That's part of the environment, is part of therapy. And you know, that's one thing I tell other therapists is, you know, don't make your office so clinical. Make people feel like they're coming home. You know, at the end of the day, they've worked all day. They don't want to feel like they're coming to another appointment. Make them feel like they're coming home. Take off your shoes if you want to. You know, grab a snack, grab a drink, sit back and relax, listen to the music, the smell, embrace the colors, embrace everything about the environment. All of that is part of therapy. And so you don't get that in teletherapy, you know, but you still get that unconditional positive regard. You still get that respect. You still get that I see you. You still get that non-judgmental interaction. So it has changed how we do what we do. And we're looking forward to getting back in the office. But even as a therapist, I need that too. So sometimes I work from home, but then I'll come to the office sometimes just to do teletherapy. There's no one in here with me, but I need this environment just as well as my clients need the environment.
Yeah, we've created a wonderful space. And I instantly felt safe and at ease as soon as I walked through the door. It's beautiful in here, and it's full of creations that you've actually made and hung up on the wall. Tell me about that.
So one of the things that I have noticed just in therapy offices, or just doctor's offices, so offices period, is that very kind of cold, clinical, and not all offices, but some of them. But also for me, it was very important that everything that was on the wall was thought out. I could have went and bought a couple, pictures and things like that, but I wanted my spirit to be in the space. I want, like, a lot of these things that I've created took months. It wasn't something that I just threw together. It was an idea, and it was like, why would this be important for this to be on the wall? The colors, the shapes, the message in it. And also a lot of the things that I have created are recreations, just like I want women to recreate themselves, so you take a picture frame from a thrift store and you find sticks on the ground and you put them together and you create, this little billboard, and it's like, it's old, but it's new, it's renewed, it's restored. And that's what we should be doing with ourselves, constantly restoring ourselves and not throwing ourselves away. Like, oh, I've been through this, or I made this mistake, and because I made this mistake, I'm no longer any good. No, you can be restored. It's a choice, And so that was the main thing of all the art pieces. I wanted to bring things that were restored and put them on the walls, just as another message of who we are. It's just a deeper level of who we are at Hummingbird, is that, there's beauty in everything. It's like the Chinese art form, wabi-sabi, where it's old, but it can be restored. It can be beautiful. Old things can be beautiful. Damaged things can be beautiful. Broken things can be beautiful. And so that was the purpose of the restoration of the art on the walls.
Perfect. And you now have a team of therapists.
Yes.
That work with you and for you, and they have their own specialties. Can you tell me about some of those specialties that
so Diane Smith, she's awesome. I worked with her in a previous setting, and she's always been hard driven, go getter, but she loves people. She loves God. She's amazing. I always like being around her. She's very driven, but she's a social worker. She's a licensed social worker, and she specializes in substance abuse treatment and domestic violence. But she also does anxiety, depression, and things like that. But substance abuse and domestic violence. And then we have Latasha, who she's just as awesome. We get along so well, and it's so funny how people say women can't work together. We get along really. We laugh, cry, we do all those things together, confide in each other. But she's like me. She's a licensed professional counselor, and she focuses on post-abortive therapy. So women who have gone through abortion, that's a very difficult process to go through. Especially a lot of women do go through that by themselves, unfortunately. And so in grief, that grief of losing a child, of having to make that decision for whatever reason. And again, you're in a place where you're safe and there's no judgment. We just want to love you. She just wants to love you. She just wants to take care of you and make sure that you're okay. And she wants to validate you in your feelings, and let you know that you matter and that you're not a bad person because you had to make a decision. And no one can judge you for that decision that you had to make. For whatever reason, you had to make that decision. So that's kind of what she does. And she also deals with anxiety, depression, and a lot of those mental health or disorders that you see more often. So she works with those. So we work really, really well together. And we're also looking to bring on 1 or 2 more therapists, because we're almost about at capacity right now. And about the women that we see about almost 100 women a week. And we all love it. Like the biggest thing is knowing that you're working with people that have the same passion as you, and you all love what you're doing. You all truly believe that this is what you were created for. Like you were created for no other reason. So that just makes the relationship even more better.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And so how would someone get in touch with you? Where is Hummingbird Counselling Services. Where are you located?
We're located in Newport News, right up the street from the city center. So we were previously in the city center. This is actually a new space for us. We've only been here since February, but we were actually in the city center in a smaller office. So the office we were in was 800 square feet, and we were there for 2 years. And this is 2,500 square feet, and we've only been here since February. So we're right in the area, right off J. Claude Morris Boulevard, by the city center.
Kimtrese, I just want to thank you so much. You've inspired me. You always are an encourager, and I'm just blown away by the atmosphere that you created in this space. And I wish you all the luck in the world, and I know that ladies are going to find value by coming to Hummingbird. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.